Chapter 14. The First Hunt. The meadow glittered in the morning sun. Granite's paws melted the thin covering of frost and left a dark trail across the silvery grass. For a long time, he and Climber dashed back and forth, making intricate patterns. A flock of black-necked gray geese flew over the lake, their wings beating against the wind. They honked loudly, turned, and came back. Granite watched them land far out on the water, their great wings extended, and their feet stretched out in front of them, sending up a spray as they glided across the surface. His attention caught by their honking, Climber also turned toward the water. Near the shore swam a flock of golden-eyed ducks. The ducks were feeding, and the playing pair watched them disappear under the water and pop to the surface. Climber was ready for another game. He lay flat on his stomach and edged toward the water. They had played this game before. Granite flattened himself and scooted on his stomach beside Climber. The ducks did not see them. They moved slowly, making no sound. When they were close to the lake, Climber looked at Granite. The dog returned his glance. He nodded. Together they burst to their feet and charged the ducks. As the pair reached the water's edge, the flock exploded, taking wing as the wolf and dog splashed into their midst. Climber's eyes glowed with happiness, and his tongue lolled out of his mouth. They splashed in the shallow water for a time, then bounded onto the bank. Together they shook themselves, sending showers of water. The fall colors soon faded, and the mountain peaks turned white with snow. The ducks and geese had flown south. The wolves had to break through ice to drink from the streams. The days were short, and stars spread across the sky before the pack trotted off on the hunt. Granite always felt bad when the pack left. He watched the hunters sadly as they traveled down the trail. His eyes followed Ebony, who never noticed the dog. Except at playtime, the leader moved proudly among the pack, his body erect as he accepted the respect of the other wolves. Only Snowdrift did not cringe before him. He was stern, but never cruel, and he was a magnificent hunter. Granite longed to be like him, and ached to hunt at his side, but Ebony judged the young dog too careless to run with the hunters. While the pack was gone, Granite practiced hunting mice. Each evening he did this, bounding through the fireweed and scattering the feathery seeds like drifting snowflakes. Soon he was catching a mouse on almost every pounce. Granite shared his prey with Snowdrift. Ebony must have found out, because one evening it happened. Ebony howled for the pack to gather. The wolves stopped their play and joined him in the clearing beside the lake. He did not begin the song of the hunt. Instead, he waited quietly, his eyes on Granite. Granite wondered if he had done something wrong. He pretended to search for a flea nibbling along his leg. When the dog looked up, Ebony was still watching him. Granite huddled on the ground, his ears back and tail between his legs. He had no idea what rule of the pack he had broken, but he expected to find out. Granite waited for Snowdrift to show him how to placate Ebony. At last the pack leader barked and motioned for the dog to join the rest of the wolves. Granite could not believe it. He scrambled to his feet and ran over to the pack, his legs moving so fast that he skidded into Strider when he tried to stop. The gray wolf smacked the dog with his paw, but Granite didn't care. He was going on the hunt. As the pack raised their voices in the hunting song, Granite howled as loudly as he could. The sounds soared, wavered, and soared again, weaving a wonderful melody. The last notes of the song trailed away on the wind. Ebony trotted off along the side of the lake. Snowdrift was next, with Granite close behind. The dog's heart swelled with pride. The rest of the pack followed. A full moon rode high in the sky, casting shadows across the trail. The wolves traveled for a long time, looking for sheep or caribou. Granite grew weary, wondering if they would run all night and come home with empty stomachs. Suddenly, Ebony stopped. He turned and sniffed deeply. His tail rose into the air. The rest of the pack lifted their heads, drawing in the air noisily. Granite sniffed too. The wind carried the smell of moose. Without a word, the pack gathered in a circle, nose to nose. Granite stood between Snowdrift and Climber. The strong smell told the wolves that a cow moose and her calf were close. The wind blew against the pack, keeping their scent from the prey. Granite yipped softly with excitement. Ebony batted him, but gently. The leader knew the thrill of a first hunt, and Granite's cry was so faint that it had not alarmed the moose. He motioned for the dog to stay behind the other wolves where he would not be in danger. Strider moved in behind Ebony and Snowdrift. Granite fell back, trotting between Roamer and Climber. The wolves loped easily in the direction of the scent, still strung out in a line. Every wolf peered ahead, tails wagging, eager to sight the prey. On the other side of a clump of trees, Ebony picked up the trail. The smell of moose grew stronger, rising from each hoofprint in the soft earth. Ebony ran faster. They covered the ground quickly with rising excitement. They were on a steep slope covered with boulders and bushes. When they reached the crest, the wolves could see the moose and her calf below, lying in a willow thicket. They ran down toward the moose. Granite was careful not to step on any branches or dislodge any stones. The wind still blew toward the pack, so the moose could not smell them. The wolves were only 10 moose lengths from the sleeping pair when the cow raised her head and saw them. She scrambled to her feet and herded her calf out into a frosty meadow that glittered in the moonlight. The pack fanned out. Granite watched carefully. When the wolves stopped moving and crouched, he did the same. The wolves' eyes were fixed on the moose, who stood motionless in the middle of the meadow. The moose bolted for the trees, and the pack ran after them. After every step, the cow looked back at the pursuing pack. The pack caught up with the cow, who slowed and stopped. She wheeled and planted her feet firmly, facing the wolves. Her hackles were raised and her eyes flamed red. The calf ran a few steps toward the distant trees, then checked his stride, waiting for his mother. The cow swung her long neck at Ebony and lashed out at him with her forefeet. He twisted away. Again the moose struck at him. Eluding the slashing hooves, Ebony tried to run around the cow and reach the running calf. The cow turned, keeping herself between Ebony and the calf. One after another, the big wolves tried to separate the calf from its mother, but she stayed in front of the calf, fending off the pack. Before long, Ebony had enough. He signaled, and the pack left the moose. Exhausted, they lay down where they were. Panting heavily, They watched the cow gather her calf and move toward the trees. After a short rest, Ebony led the wolves across the meadow and up the next hill. They ran along the crest until he spotted a lone caribou grazing upwind. Within a few minutes, he and Snowdrift had brought it down. There was enough meat for everyone. With full stomachs, the pack lay down to sleep.